A trip to the heart of the Muslim world.
The president's words and his tone dramatically different from the campaign, when he proposed banning all Muslims from entering the U.S. and portrayed Islam as the enemy.
I think Islam hates us. There's something there that there's a tremendous hatred there.
This time, talk of partnership and cooperation in the war on terror. But he did challenge these leaders to take the lead in defeating the terrorists in their midst.
A better future is only possible if your nations drive out the terrorists and drive out the extremists. Drive them out. Drive them out of your places of worship. Drive them out of your communities. Drive them out of your holy land. And drive them out of this earth.
And before he left Saudi Arabia, there was this incredible image. The president and the king, hands on a glowing orb. What were they doing? Opening up a new center in Saudi Arabia to counter extremists online.
The president will be meeting here with Israeli Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu and with Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas, but these will be separate meetings. For all the talk of a peace deal by President Trump, the two sides at this point aren't even talking to each other about it yet. George?
Okay, John, thanks very much. Let's bring our Chief Global Affairs anchor, Martha Raddatz, to talk more about this right now. As John just said, we know this meeting with the Israeli Prime Minister will be today, and he's got a good relationship with Bibi Netanyahu, but it's trickier now because of that revelation that the president shared highly classified Israeli intelligence with the Russians.
It sure is, George. You know, you may see these magnificent ceremonies and this unshakable bond in public, but there is a whole lot going on in the Israeli intelligence community behind the scenes. It's hard to imagine that President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu will spend any time talking about it. It will be done in the intelligence communities, the security communities, but make no mistake, this was a major issue and infuriated Israeli intelligence. You're talking about putting the lives of spies at risk, and Israel will think twice about sharing that kind of intelligence, George.
President there with the Israeli President Reuven Rivlin right now, and Martha, the president is personally getting invested in this whole issue of Middle East peace, trying to drive a peace deal between Israel and the Palestinians. Many of his predecessors have tried and failed.
They sure have tried, George. It's one of the most complicated issues on the planet. I've watched this process for decades. And just when you think you have made progress, it comes to a screeching halt. It's always good to be optimistic, but analysts I've spoken to don't see anything that President Trump's team has done that gives them any great hope there will be Middle East peace. In fact, I think they are less optimistic that it will happen under this administration, George.
President will try to prove them wrong. Martha Raddatz, thanks very much.
All right, George, and now to the latest on the Russia investigation. There are new questions this morning about President Trump's meeting with Russian officials and what he said about former FBI Director James Comey. Our senior justice correspondent Pierre Thomas has more joins us with those details. Good morning, Pierre.
Robin, good morning. Yes, allegations of name-calling from President Trump only likely to fuel the war of words with a former FBI director who is set to testify before Congress in the coming weeks.
Even as the president travels overseas, questions about Russia and the firing of the FBI director remain front and center.
These questions need to be answered.
New reports of federal investigators looking into whether there were ties between the Trump campaign and Russia are interested in a White House staffer. The staffer has not been identified, and it's unclear what the investigators want.
I don't know where this is going to go. I mean, again, we got to step back and let the investigators and the FBI and the others do their job.
Newly appointed special counsel Bob Mueller is gearing up for an investigation, and many who know him say it will be broad and aggressive. This is fired FBI Director James Comey prepares to testify before the Senate Intelligence Committee. The New York Times reporting President Trump allegedly called him a nut job in the Oval Office during that meeting with top Russian officials, reportedly adding that firing Comey took great pressure off him.
Is that what the president said?
Well, I don't remember exactly what the president said. The gist of the conversation was that the president feels as if he's hamstrung.
The investigation into Russia is not going anywhere, and with the testimony of Comey on the horizon, More dramatic moments surely to come, George.
Okay, Pierre, thanks very much. And as those investigations continue on Capitol Hill, this week Congress is going to get its first look at President Trump's full budget. He promises to balance the budget in 10 years with big cuts in safety net programs like Medicaid. Our congressional correspondent, Mary Bruce, is on Capitol Hill with the details. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, George. Well, we're getting a new glimpse at the president's spending priorities, and one of his top targets, entitlements. The president's budget, which will be released tomorrow, will reportedly slash these safety nets by $1.7 trillion, including massive cuts to Medicaid, food stamps, and other anti-poverty programs. Now, as the president promised on the campaign trail, he is not touching Social Security or Medicare. Now, the president has also called for a big boost in military spending, $54 billion, coupled with cuts to foreign aid and other domestic programs. But already the president's plan is being met with a bit of a cold shoulder by members of both parties. But George, as always, the president's budget just a jumping off point for negotiations up here on Capitol Hill.
That's the beginning. Okay, Mary, thanks very much. Let's talk about it more now with our chief political analyst, Matthew Dowd. And you leave that description that Mary just gave. This is the president really doubling down on what we saw in that House plan to repeal and replace Obamacare, and that's not popular.
Well, no, and I think this plan is based on a couple of premises that I think the assumptions aren't going to go right. One is based on the House plan on health care passing in the Senate, which looks like it's been a buzzsaw. It's not going anywhere. And the other thing it's premised on is these series of tax cuts that are baked into this. They're going to somehow dramatically grow the economy, and then that's going to fix the budget. I think the problem Donald Trump has, in order to do something this dramatic and draconian in many ways, requires a lot of political capital. And he doesn't have a full gas tank. He doesn't even have half a gas tank. He has a third of a gas tank of political capital, so it's going to be really tough to get this through.
He does appear to be getting a little bit of a break from the controversies at home on his first trip overseas.
Yeah, I think his first trip so far, one of the lessons you would think he would learn is giving set speeches on a teleprompter usually gets you applause and usually gets you people. So far, no errors. I don't know how many runs are scored. I think when you look at these foreign trips, I recall a lot of presidential foreign trips that didn't do anything within the country. Richard Nixon made a dramatic trip in 1974. It didn't change how the public viewed. And as you remember, Bill Clinton made a Middle Eastern trip 10 days before Election Day in 1994. He was applauded throughout the trip, came back and dramatically lost elections.
Got wiped out.
Got wiped out.
Okay, Matthew Dowd, thanks very much.
And so we're going to move from politics to that tragedy at the University of Maryland. The FBI is now investigating a 22-year-old student for a possible hate crime after he allegedly stabbed another young student. ABC's Adrian Vangert is on the scene for us.